Have you ever wanted to buy something you were excited about?
You probably spent a lot of time planning and researching in order to find the one that was unique for you.
Take buying a car, for example. You might spend some time trying to find a model and a color that you like and it isn't too common.
You finally decide on a beautiful and unique red Dodge Charger. Yet despite your efforts to get that car that's uniquely you, the moment after you purchase it, you start seeing them everywhere.
In the parking lot, at the grocery store, stopped next to you at the traffic light, and even in your neighbor's driveway. It seems like you just can't get away from it now.
Well, guess what? You're not the only one who has had this experience. It's quite common. And it's not because everyone went out and copied you or even coincidentally bought the same car as you on the same day. Those cars were already there. You just failed to notice them.
This effect is so common that it actually has a name, the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, or the frequency illusion. What is that? It would appear as though your brain is excited by the fact that you've learned something new and is now on the hunt to find more instances of that learning. It's like your brain is saying, wow, that's pretty cool. And then it starts automagically looking for more without you actually aware of it.
While this might be annoying when buying a new car or those nice new shoes, frequency illusion can be quite powerful when learning a new word, a definition, or even a new concept in math class.
In the previous two videos, we spent a significant amount of time learning about how the curiosity path can help us avoid the rush to the algorithm and build resilient problem solvers. However, all of these efforts are wasted unless we are actively fueling sense-making through the building of conceptual understanding.
One of the many ways we fuel sense-making in our math class is by focusing on exposing students to multiple representations each and every day. Like the frequency illusion we've all experienced when buying a new car or stylish new shoes, we can leverage this phenomenon in our math classes to our advantage. Through the act of creating, observing, and conversing through multiple representations of a mathematical idea, students' brains will almost automatically begin to be on the lookout for where these representations exist in other contexts and other concepts in your math class and beyond.
For example, in the stacking paper task where the curiosity path leads us to the question, how many packs of paper does it take to reach the ceiling? Students engage in a productive struggle to generate their own strategies and representations to solve the problem. It's now our job to select and sequence the different student strategies and representations that will be beneficial for us to share and push student learning further.
Okay, let's have a look at some strategies and representations that are very accessible for students in younger grade levels or for students in middle grades with large gaps in their mathematical understanding. Some students might be at a developmental level where using physical manipulatives such as square tiles or linking cubes might be appropriate to represent the height of each package of paper.
If that's the case, it's likely that working with decimal values to hundredths is probably not something that will prove to be helpful either. Instead, we might consider suggesting that students use friendly numbers and come up with a strategy to help them improve their prediction rather than attempt to find the exact number of packages of paper it would take to get from the floor to the ceiling. So, 25 centimeters for the height of 5 packages seems reasonable instead of 24.75 centimeters, and 275 centimeters seems reasonable for the height of the room.
Thinking of this problem using concrete manipulatives and friendly numbers really lowers the floor on this task. If students are using friendly numbers and manipulatives to help organize their thinking, it's likely that you may also have some of these students using additive thinking. While some might add using 1 package units or 5 centimeter units, others might be comfortable adding units of 5 packages or units of 25 centimeters to get closer to the height of the ceiling.
For some students using a similar additive strategy, they might start showing signs of multiplicative thinking by recognizing that when they are 100 centimeters, they can double the number of packages to double the height. If students don't show signs of any doubling strategy, we might consider pressing them for understanding by asking them what would happen to the height if they doubled the number of packages.
For other students, they may have used additive thinking to get to approximately 20 packages of paper and then re-unitize for adding groups of 100 centimeters until arriving at an answer. If students add another group of 100 centimeters, they'll be at a total height of 300 centimeters and actually have to subtract the height of 5 packages to compensate.
Students can then reference the concrete model on their desk and conclude that it would take approximately 11 groups of 5 packages of paper, or 55 packages in total, to reach the height of the ceiling. If students are familiar with using arrays for multiplication, we can also incorporate the array model into a situation like this to push our thinking from additive to multiplicative.
If we take the 11 groups of 5 packages of paper from the previous strategy and form a rectangle, we can clearly see the total number of packages of paper. By making a copy of that array and changing our units from number of packages of paper to number of centimeters, we can see the beginnings of a proportional relationship showing itself in a really beautiful way. What an awesome way to truly understand this task conceptually and offer students a visual entry point.
If students aren't into breaking out the square tiles or connecting cubes and are ready to move from the concrete to visual stage, we might consider exploring this problem on a double number line. By representing the number of packages on one number line and the total height on the other, we can build on the beginnings of this proportional relationship using this linear model.
Early on, students may still approach this task using additive thinking by creating units of 5 packages of paper and 25 centimeters in height, and then simply adding these units repeatedly until reaching their desired height estimated at 275 centimeters. But just as we saw in the first strategy, the goal is that over time, students will begin using multiplicative strategies, starting with doubling and maybe even tripling, and then once they get close to the desired height of 275 centimeters, going back to smaller units such as 5 packages of paper and 25 centimeters.
Eventually, as we continue to push students from additive to multiplicative thinking, we will arrive at a point where we can use models like these to utilize the intrinsic relationship between multiplication and division. Since we know that the height of the ceiling is a certain number of times bigger than 5 packages of paper, we can apply the opposite operations to determine just how many times bigger the ceiling actually is.
When students realize that the ceiling is about 11 times taller than the 5 packages of paper, we can go back to reference this scale factor of 11 that's come up in each of our previous strategies and begin to work towards more efficient strategies. Since students see the relationship between the number of packages and total height on the number line, we can easily connect that the number of packages must also be 11 times larger than the 5 packages sitting on the floor to come to the same conclusion of approximately 55 packages.
And this is just the beginning. There are so many connections we can make as student understanding develops towards creating tables, graphs, proportions, and equations to model mathematically and solve problems.
Now let's be clear about one thing here. We're absolutely not suggesting that you explicitly introduce all of these representations to students in one lesson, but rather anticipating that some students may choose some of these representations as a means to solve the task. As you monitor and sequence the handful of student representations and strategies that you hope to share during the consolidation, you might then have one representation that you'd like to sneak in and share with the class so that they can add it to their math strategy toolkit.
Over time, as more and more math moments are created through students solving meaningful tasks and being exposed to multiple representations, they will begin to see these representations showing up more and more, just like that red Dodge Charger you recently bought and is showing up everywhere.
The best part is that you as the teacher get a chance to explicitly make the connections between these representations and truly create that math moment that will matter for your students.
So, continuing our mission to help you make math moments that matter in your classroom, we have a few resources for you to take away. Grab the necessary files, images, and videos to use the stacking paper task in your class, including a teacher guide printable. And to help you brainstorm and anticipate the multiple representations possible for any task, use our anticipation guide template. This is the page we use to help us anticipate as many of the possible strategies students may take when solving a problem.
Now, since we all know that we don't learn just by reading or by listening or even by doing, we only learn when we generate new knowledge by reflecting on new ideas and what we've done with those ideas to make new connections to what we already know. So our challenge for you is to reflect by answering the question, what was most useful to you from this video? Share your answer to this question in the comments below.
Over the last 3 videos, what we've shared are elements of our 3-part framework that we use to make math moments that matter for all of our students. We have shown you how to spark curiosity through the use of the curiosity path. We've shown you a technique to fuel sense making through the use of multiple representations, and we've built in some elements of igniting your next moves by sharing how we would plan for making math moments that matter.
But you might still have some questions circling in your mind, like, how do I plan these moments to happen on a regular basis? Or how do I put an end to students asking, when will I ever use this?
How do I incorporate all of these ideas into the same lesson? Do they all have to be included in every single lesson? How can I help every student in my class, even when there are many students who are grade levels apart in their mathematical understanding?
Or how to put an end to students saying, I don't get it, and giving up on problems in math class. And finally, how can I help students to retain new math learning for longer than just a couple of weeks?
We've been working on a way to best help you maximize your learning of the Making Math Moments 3-part framework and put it to use as soon as possible. The focus of the final video in this 4-part video series is about how we can best help you reach this goal. You're not going to want to miss it.
High fives for us.
And high fives for you.